First thing is, can I get everyone to kind of look here? I'm gonna take a photo. My director of content always gives me challenges that like I never take photos of anything I do. And can you guys do like a small wave, very small wave? All right. Thank you, thank you. Okay, that was item number one. Item number two. Can I get everybody, if you can, if you want to, can you please stand up? Here we go. All right. All right, everybody's with me here. Okay, perfect. So, if you are okay, we're back to diapers now, by the way. We're back to diapers. If you are a parent, please stay standing. So, if you're not a parent, you can sit down. All right. No, that's fair. That's fair. We got a few. Okay, if your kids are under 3, please sit down. Or sorry, if they're under 3, please stay standing. If they're over 3, you can sit down. You're out of diapers. All right, we still got a few folks there. Okay, yeah, I got a thumbs up in the back. So very quickly, right? Like we have targeted and segmented this user group. And in this room, there's not a lot of folks still standing. Globally across the population, even though it's a small segment, it does add up over time. So of the folks that are standing, who's still standing? Hands up. Okay. All right, perfect. Yeah, it's fine. How old are your kids? 1-year-old. Okay, so you're gonna get where I'm going soon. 9 months. All right. Who else is that? Yeah. 1.5. All right. So even though there's only 3 people, was there only 3? Is there anyone else? And myself. I have a 2 years. There's 4 of us. We are going to segment even further as we get into this demo, as we get into a live site. So Bertrand told you about all the cool things they're doing on their next site. I'm going to show a live customer example in a few moments here. Before I get there, Uniform at a glance. There's over 100 digital teams that are using Uniform across the globe. We are globally distributed across 10 global locations, powering about just over a billion experiences per month. But we've landed a few large customers relatively recently, and they're going to spike that to like 4 billion a month just because of their volume. We have 80 plus partners. So when I talk about partners, those are both integration and technology partners, and agency partners. So Sanity would fit into the technology integration partner, but Rangle would fit into the agency partner. Most of our partnerships are integrations. Part of our core offering is integrations and tapping into the APIs of all the different services. I'll show that in a few moments here. Our customers cluster into roughly 8 industries: fintech, consumer goods, banking, telco, insurance, higher ed, travel, and hospitality. We have funding. We're a startup. At a glance, we have some, a snapshot of some of our customers. This isn't conclusive of all of our customers, but just a quick snapshot of some of the major brands that are using Uniform. We're going to be looking at a Procter & Gamble brand called Pampers. All right, we are coming back to diapers. If you're familiar with the MACH architecture or the MACH Alliance, they have a standard diagram of the types of tools and services that stitch together to build up a digital experience. I've just quickly overlaid where Uniform has some core capabilities. Our core capability is called digital experience composition, but we also have an API integration framework and a personalization engine, and that's how I'm going to show how everything comes together. But why does Uniform exist? By the way, has anyone in this room that doesn't work at Rangle or Sanity, raise your hands if you've even heard of Uniform before? There we go. All right, I'm glad we're doing this. Uniform is young. It's like a pretty early company. I think it's only been around for about 3 years. Now, the founders of Uniform came from a much larger CMS, one of those legacy ones that Bertrand was making fun of. It was called Sitecore, and it's a .NET CMS that's a giant and nobody wants to use anymore. So they're shifting to things like Sanity. So our founders came from there, and they realized, okay, well, as everyone shifts to headless CMSs and a more composable world, decision makers are making trade-offs. And those trade-offs are with those traditional systems, the Adobe Experience Manager and the Java stack, or Sitecore and the .NET stack, there are trade-offs. The traditional systems tend to be very good when it comes to conversion rates, being able to visually manage what page or experience is happening, understanding that in-context shopper intent, and having a really good editorial experience. And the reason for this is over time, those legacy tools have bought CDPs, customer data platforms, or they've bought personalization tools and they've kind of mashed things together. It's not great, but it works. And these are the trade-offs. However, if you're moving over to the right, composable and headless, and using tools like Sanity, it's way faster to market. The site speed is fantastic. You can go across multiple channels, and the developers can use the best framework. So this is where folks are going. There is this big shift to the right, but this area on the left tends to be an open question mark. This is the gap that Uniform is filling, and we coexist and layer on top of other tools and systems in a headless way so we can take away those risks. So if you're using Uniform and Sanity, like the Rangle team is doing with their own website, then you don't have to worry about those trade-offs anymore. You get the best of both worlds. That is our position in the ecosystem and market, and that's part of our narrative. Some of our core capabilities. So experience management is really a big focus for us. So having some visual tooling to build websites and mobile apps. So we call them compositions because a composition can be a web page. It can be a screen on a mobile app, a screen on a kiosk. We also have a built-in tool to manage a design system. So you can bring your components into Uniform, and it gives a nice visual tool for editors and authors to say, oh, I want to take this 3-up card view and drop it on a page. And there's a lot of guardrails in place, so it's not super freeform, but that's by design. So you are adhering to a design system that Rangle can make for you. Things like hierarchies and URLs, sometimes that's quite difficult to manage in the headless CMS. And even in mobile apps, we're finding our customers say, oh, you know what? I actually still want a site tree style hierarchy to manage all the screens of a mobile app. And this section will be for Canada and this section will be for US. And then we're adding we've added some really cool features around advanced releases and schedules, kind of like a GitHub flow, if you're familiar with GitHub, where you can take all your code, fork it. Well, we have a similar system for experiences and content. So you can take your entire page, create a fork of it. We call it a release, make all your changes in this isolated local environment, and then schedule it to get merged back into the main branch, which we're calling base. So we originally started off with the more developer-centric naming conventions. Then we went and tested it with a bunch of our customers, and the marketing teams did not resonate with fork, branch, merge at all. So we've changed all the verbs to be more marketing friendly. So it's create, release, edit, modify, launch, publish. So that's otherwise it's GitHub flow in a experience tool. This is our focus today, and where I'm going to spend a lot of time around our personalization and experimentation engine. So you can test against different pieces of content, different UIs, different layouts, and knowing what a few things about customers or their intent or what they're doing, you can start to manipulate what they're seeing in real time. This is a little bit of detail about how Uniform works. So there's kind of this side of the screen and that side of the screen. So the stuff over here, this is happening in real time. So as someone's visiting, they're creating events, they're clicking around, the UTM parameters coming in from an ad campaign or an email, understanding their location, understanding what they're searching for. We can activate that data in real time. The stuff on the right hand, this comes from other systems and services. So I'm also going to show another example where we're calling an API to determine your location, and then based on your location, calling another API to get the weather. And then based on those two pieces of data, I can then recommend a beer to you because we're at a beer event. Where are the beers and breweries coming from? They're all loaded in Sanity, and I'm stitching together everything in Uniform. So I'll show that in a second here. So it's kind of that mix and match where we'll get some data about you from an external source, and we'll get some data about you locally, and you can mix and match to create really relevant experiences. And what really puts this all together is we have this capability built in around integrating across different data sources, content sources, and custom APIs, and then pushing everything into the front end very neatly. And this is kind of my last one. So you said something about, was it SOX, like the accounting standard, or SOC 2 compliance, the security? Yeah, so we're SOC 2 type 2. All right, so every fintech, every banking sector needs that little logo, SOC 2 type 2. We started with a customer base very enterprise heavy, so we started with SOC 2 type 2. It really helps kind of differentiate us from some of the other solutions in market. And generally, our customers tend to see very strong Lighthouse scores when coupled with more modern tools. So on that note, we're back to diapers. Here we go. Here we go. All right. So Pampers is a live example. This is a customer that's using Uniform today. And in the right-hand bar here, I have this little Chrome extension. And the Chrome extension is a Uniform Chrome extension. It's telling me what has been identified so far about me. So the first thing is quirks. So we have an integration with all the front-end clouds. In this example, Pampers is using Cloudflare. Cloudflare is telling Uniform back, hey, this person is in Toronto. Here's their region. Here's their postal code. So some lightweight information there. And these dimensions are kind of preloaded because I've been clicking on the site. So if I go, so it's saying, hey, I'm giving a signal that this person is interested in the toddler content. I have a 2-year-old. Some other folks, you might be in kind of the, maybe not newborn, but maybe in between. Someone at the back said 9 months, so they're definitely in a newborn. So we are segmenting quite granularly, but the reason is the content is different based on the stage of the baby's growth. So if I'm looking at right here by age, newborn, baby, and toddler, there's completely different experiences, completely different content. So what I'm going to do here is I'll go into like parenting, I'll go into my baby development. Here, let's just go to all baby articles, and then let's click on a baby article. And I'll click through. And so now I am signaling intent that, hey, I am interested in newborn content. So what's going to happen now is you're going to see, hey, see how I got the score, newborn audience? This is a new data point. So I'm being profiled on the fly based on my intent. So if I continue to click around on a bunch of different newborn content, I will be segmented and cohorted on the fly. And every time I click on something, I get an incremental score of 5. So if I go back, for example, I click on the next article, right? So now I'm up to 10. So if I go back to my home page, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do some manipulation because I have the Chrome extension. So I'm going to go into my what if scenario, and I'll add an override, and I'll say, you know what? Let's go to my newborn all, and let's make it 100. Okay, and I hit save. I come back here. It was very subtle and it was very fast, but this isn't the same banner that you just saw a few moments ago. It's now saying save on your first newborn diapers. If I scroll down a little bit, don't fear blowouts. This is not a problem I have with a 2-year-old. It's probably a problem someone with a newborn has. Made for your newborn. So everything this is high performance, super fast, on the edge, which is kind of the title of today's talk. It's happening. If you blink, you'll miss it. So it's personalizing all the experiences. Now, if I go back into my what if and I edit this override and I drive it down to 0, it's going to swap out. So now I'm back to save on diapers, try our parenting tools, try Pampers products. So everything's flipped back. If I want to take my toddler audience, where did it go? Toddler all, and drive this one up. Let's go all the way to 100. So now you can see that the top didn't change, the middle didn't change, but the banners at the top and some of the product recommendations have all changed because I'm now in a different cohort, a different segment. So they're looking at my intents, they're looking at what's happening. And actually this Pampers Club, if you've logged into the app, it goes away. I have not logged into the app, but they're always pushing the app. They're always pushing you to get into their loyalty program so they get more information, give you some discounts. So here's a real example of how personalization is being applied. Show of hands, does anyone here have a website that's sophisticated and personalized to this level? There are no hands up. So I want you all to take away from today's event that Pampers is selling diapers better than any of you are selling anything. Okay, that was just a joke, but thanks for. All right, cool. So the second thing I'm going to get into here is I'm now going to look at. So this website here is APIs and IPAs.vercel.app. So this is the second demo that we're doing. So what's happening is we're using, in this example, I don't have the Chrome extension. I'll pull it up in a second here. So this example is using Vercel. So the Vercel edge function is telling me my location. Then we're going to like a generic weather API, getting the weather. And then based on the weather data, it's showing me, hey, it's a nice day out. Here's a beer recommendation for you. That's good, right? I think it was Wei, if he's still in the room, he was like, "You need to go show this to LCBO." And I was like, "Oh, that was smart. I never, yeah." So I'll go try to let's try to go get LCBO after this, or a beer store. So I posted this to like the Sanity Exchange. I'm hoping a bunch of people globally can go and kind of test this. If I go, I'm going to quickly show it up here. Sanity Exchange, because I put some screenshots here. So like when I did it at home, it's like here's what it looks like in Oakville. I have a colleague in, I don't even know how to say that, Slagelse. So they're getting a recommendation. Someone's getting a different recommendation. And someone's in Copenhagen's getting a different recommendation. So let's flip over and take a look at how this is constructed. So the first thing is I'm in Uniform, and I have this banner section at the top, and I have this personalization container. So this is my default variant. This is the default banner. If we know nothing about you, you should first hit your first visit. It starts here. Then I have this beer configured. So if the temperature is greater than 10 degrees, you're going to get this recommendation. See if I can shrink this a little bit here. Here, let's go this way. Okay. There we go, other variants. So now let's go over to the bone shaker. So now we're looking at the bone shaker. So if the temperature is less than or equal to 20 degrees, you get the bone shaker. So we're 15.7, so we're getting the bone shaker. If I am looking at less than or greater than 25 degrees, you're gonna get a recommendation about this strawberry rhubarb beer. And then the final one is Headstock by Amsterdam, and that's just greater than 25. So you can see here, it's a hot day. That's the recommendation. So based on that temperature is how we're determining what recommendation to show you. We're getting the temperature based on your location. So it works, because it's in an edge function, it works globally. So this is how we're stitching it together and determining the logic of who sees what. Now, all of this beer information, I'm going to flip over to the content tab here. You can see I'm getting this term Headstock and this term Amsterdam. So this is the name of my beer, it's the name of the brewery, and then I get a description and an image. So when I click in on Headstock, it's going to open up this type of pane. And you can see I'm getting something out of the field called name. So this is the API payload response. So what Uniform is also doing is getting the API from somewhere. In this case, it's Sanity. And this is the payload that I'm getting back from Sanity. I can take that response and stuff it into my front-end component, because I have a component with a banner and it's expecting eyebrow text, the title, a description. So Headstock, the name of the beer, is coming from a content type in Sanity called beers. And then Amsterdam is that secondary reference. It's the name of the brewery. And that's how I'm putting this title together. So without writing a line of code, I'm now pulling from their API, putting it into a front-end component to show, render, and preview. This description is entirely coming out of that beer record inside of Sanity. So I'm getting location data from Vercel, weather data from a weather API, content from Sanity, to put this all together. Now my components are all, if I want to put in, we have this thing called a component starter kit that I'm using. So I have a collection of components that are available to me. On the left-hand side here too is we call it a structure pane. So all of my personalization buckets are all together. But if I wanted to add in a component anywhere on the page, this is where the design system really takes flight. We can bring an existing design system into Uniform, categorize it. So here are all my marketing options. Here are my commerce options. Here's my layouts and containers. So I can just start with a grid and start to, in a atomic way, inside of a grid, put buttons, put images, put banners, put cards. And here are all the list of different atoms available to me. So I can have quite a bit of flexibility to create components on the fly based on the atoms I have available to me, or just use something that exists like a 3-up cart, right? So, but again, we didn't set this up at Uniform. This is where we rely on the digital team and the developers, or an agency like Rangle to set this all up on behalf of the marketing users. So I'm unpacking it. So we started at the front. Now let's go back even a level deeper. So how does this look in Sanity? So inside of Sanity, I have very simple, very clean, very reusable content types. I have one called beer, and here are my different beers. So here's that strawberry rhubarb, right? So I have this content is highly reusable. I'm pulling it into Uniform, but it can be also used in a mobile app, can be used across channels. There is no presentation data or display data like making a mess of what's being stored in Sanity. That makes this very portable. So I have beers and I have breweries. So I kind of have the two different types. So if I go into something like Hazy Days, and then Hazy Days is attached to Cowbell Brewing. So this is how I've kept everything very neat, organized for the author's insanity, and then I can build my experience in many flexible ways in Uniform. And then we were talking earlier about Grok and how to pull stuff out of Sanity. So in Uniform, we have something called data types that essentially establishes the connection to that upstream data source. So it's like a Postman style interface. So I have an HTTP request. Here's my API endpoint. And because it's Sanity, it's just public. And then I've then created a query to get the beers. Using Grok, I have a query variable called query, and then here is my type. So my type is, so this is a Grok notation, and then I'm even passing through a variable, and this variable is, I can set different variables so I can reuse my queries. And I did this because I'm not the biggest fan of Grok because I don't know it well enough and I am learning it. But once I learn a few different Grok queries, then I can pass different variables in and I don't have to relearn that. I just say, okay, in this example, I'm passing a query for beer content type and it's constructing the query for me and getting the data back out of Sanity. So if I hit test, it's going to give me a response, and here's the results that I'm getting. So here are all of my beers coming out of Sanity. And then once I made that one, then all I did was pass a different variable through for brewery. And so now I get my beers in one query, my breweries in the second query, stitch it together visually. That's what I did to put this demo together with the help of a ton of very talented team members at Uniform. While this is all happening, this section, so Next 15 just came out, and we wanted to play with progressive pre-rendering. So everything under this section is all static, but this block at the top is server-side dynamic and is progressively pre-rendered. So like when I was sitting at a table earlier today, I guess our temperature changed. It went from like, I loaded it up in Oakville and it was 15 degrees. I'm sitting here watching it reflect to 16.7 in Toronto. So having that progressive pre-rendering is quite advanced, quite nice. So we use this as an experiment to play with Next 15, progressive pre-rendering, Sanity, Uniform, a couple different APIs, bring it all together. All of the code is open sourced. And so if you look into our github.com/uniformdev, we call it the component starter kit. You can find the example. Here's the specific code for this beer recommendation. I'm not going to go through it because none of you can probably see the screen, but it's all available, and we'll share the links after the event. That is all I got.